Hello guys, you're watching Rayl Deal Games, and today I'm going to be talking about something that I don't really talk about on the channel too much, but it has been a big part of my life for a very, very long time, and that's Magic the Gathering. I played the game for the first time all the way back in like 7th edition, I think, was when I learned how to play. And the reason why I'm bringing this up now is because very recently, a couple weeks ago, Tarkir Dragonstorm released, and one thing that really makes this particular set so important to me is Tarkir is my favorite Magic plane of all time. I loved the Mongolian, East Asian, just Asia as in general theming of Tarkir, and also just the story elements of the world building, the characters, and how that was represented through the game's mechanics. Obviously, from the title, I think Tarkir Dragonstorm is the most fun Magic the Gathering set in a long time. Probably since, like, for me anyway, Neon Dynasty. I missed a couple sets between now and then, but Neon Dynasty was really, really good. I don't think this is as good as Neon Dynasty, because Neon Dynasty was like something completely on its own level, but Tarkir Dragonstorm is a lot of fun, and I have my commitment to the channel and my like ability to work after working all day has been terrible ever since this set came out, because I just keep drafting it over and over and over again, and I have to gush about how much I love this set. I mentioned Aether Drift in my speed video from just last Friday, and Aether Drift was not that good. I did not like Aether Drift that much. I drafted it like 3 or 4 times and didn't really get it feel for the archetypes or the world building, because for me, part of what made Magic good from the beginning was the in-universe world building. And I thought Tarkir really manifested this world building in super interesting ways. You see, in Magic, if you're not aware, you have color denominations: white, blue, black, red, green. And they kind of inform what a card can do. There's a thing called a color pie, and what the card can do is determined by that. Within Tarkir, the original timeline, there were 5 clans, clans ruled by Khans. And each one of them had 3 color parts of their identity, and those things were very interesting on how they did that, because it wasn't just environment, it wasn't just what the people did, it was almost like they were cultural representations of cultural things that each of these clans did. And it created this kind of like metaphorical feel to the way that the designers communicated the themes of Tarkir across to the player, and I really, really loved this. The 5 clans from that set were Abzan, which was green, black, white; Jeskai, red, blue, green, or red, blue, white; Mardu, red, white, black; Temur, red, blue, green; and Sultai, blue, green, black. And each one of these, it was so cool. I want to run through them real quick. So for the Abzan, it was like they had a connection to their family. They're a really tight-knit civilization that had to live in the wastes. So it was kind of like a harsh environment. And so each one of those colors represents their connection to their ancestors and their connection to each other. And they represent those themes through the way that it was like a ++1 counter themed a clan. It was really cool for that reason. The Jeskai are monks. They live in monasteries up in the mountains. And white, blue, red kind of plays into that spell slinging thing. So they were like really mental monks. And so as a result, they had a lower volume of them, but each one individual moment could be much more powerful with the prowess mechanic. Mardu, where it was the horde, it was the Mongolian themed clan. So they have yurts, they are on horseback, and they ride around and raid and stuff like that. And Temur, they were the like hinterland harbor people and living up in the icy wastes alongside animals in close proximity. I always really felt like they kind of reminded me of Rush, like the Siberia a little bit, which I always thought was cool. And then Sultai was interesting because it was like it was almost like a oligarchy at the top, like a super wealthy oligarchy at the top of necromancers that ruled their nation with brutality. And something it's like the color theming here is very, very important to me in the way that Magic design represents those colors. And it actually came up in the Final Fantasy X Commander product for me because it felt like, to me, it should be a Jeskai product based on the themes of that story, not a green, blue, white product, which is what it is. Maybe the main set will kind of represent what I feel the themes of FFX would be represented in the Magic color pie. So that was the original cons. After that, though, there's like a time travel element into it. It's like one of my own. I'm not a big fan of time travel. There's like very, very specific and a small number of stories where I think time travel is good, like Back to the Future, for instance. The time travel is used really well there in interesting ways. This is an instance where time travel was used really cool, in a really, really cool way because they established the world ruled by cons. But in the past, these Conums had exterminated all the dragons on the world. They're extinct. Their bones are everywhere. In fact, there was like a card that was a dragon lord's head as a throne because of what they had done. It was so cool. And it's like one of the only Magic sets in history to not have a dragon in it at all. But then you go to the past, an event happens, and one of the characters of the story, Sarkon, saves the dragons, and then they end up taking over the world. So then you get to see the alternate timeline ruled by dragon lords. And I really like this because the dragons, the dominion of dragons after their return, fits their identity, and it's like the clans have to shave off a third of their identity to fit in with the dragon country, like the dragon clans. And each one of those dragons had very specific art or very specific style to their art that was really, really cool. Like Atarka, the big molten dragons had like antlers, which was such a like glowing antlers, which was cool. Kolagon's horde had 4 wings, so they were like faster, and they had a lightning theme to them because they were the more aggressive ones. Dramoka had these big, gigantic rock chins, which was, and they were like protective. So they actually lived not alongside, they lorded over the humans and everything else that lived on Tarkir, but they were probably the better one to live with than the others. Silumgar was like, they had like almost like a crocodilian or a snake theming to their look, and they're like, they spit out noxious fumes and stuff, and it was like, they're really cool. And then Ojutai was kind of like thin, slender, with almost like opposable thumbs too. They're kind of an interesting sign, like feather wings and stuff. And each one of these designs really set the dragons apart from one another. And because they were the sort, like they were spawned out of their specific Dragonstorm, every other dragon that was with them looked in that theming. And if there's one thing I don't necessarily like about Tarkir Dragonstorm specifically, is how those archetypes of dragons, those art archetypes of dragons, don't show up anymore, really. There's like a couple times where you can see it in the background of an art, but they don't show up by and large across the whole set. There's a lot of new designs, which I kind of get why they're doing that, because they killed off all those dragon lords. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But they needed to really focus in on this particular design aspect, because this was one of the coolest things about Dragons of Tarkir. And in fact, I guess I will just talk about the unceremonious death of the Dragon Lord. So in the story of Tarkir, at the end of Dragons of Tarkir, which was the 3rd set of the original one 10 years ago, there were each one of the previous cons had come about in the new timeline, and they had a completely different role within their society. They were high ranking, or maybe they weren't. And each one of them were either reconciled with where their position in the hierarchy was, or they schemed to usurp the Dragon Lords. And it kind of set up this framework where there was maybe a planned story in the future for the Dragon Lords to be knocked down from their perch, and for a new war between cons and dragons to emerge. Really, really cool idea. Awesome idea. Would love to see it. One of my big critiques of Tarkir Dragonstorm from this kind of like story element is that this is all done off screen. The Dragon Lords are killed off screen by some kind of like Deus Ex Machina spirit dragon thing. And while it doesn't impact the value of the set in terms of how cool the set is, how epic it is, I really wanted to see those Dragon Lords again, and I wanted to be able to play with new cards of them. I thought that would have been so cool. It needed to be 2 sets, and I hope at one point they can go back and do like a Foundations level thing or a Foundations type thing and give us this event, like give us a downfall or a death of Kolagon or a downfall of a Tarka cycle, like a cycle of these downfall of the Dragon Lords type thing. That's what I really, really want to see at some point in the future, and it's something that I think they could do because there's definitely design space there, and people are really loving Tarkir, so I think they could get away with it. And you see, Tarkir in this sense is that Tarkir in this way is one of the most important Magic sets because it really broke the color wheel for dragons. It made them 5 color. But for the longest time, they were red or red-black, maybe with a blue one here or a white one here. But by and large, that's what they were. But now you can find dragons in all colors across many, many sets in the future. So it really broke that color pie open. And it makes sense because dragons are so cool that they really can have a lot of different designs than just the basic fire-breathing one. Now, that was a lot of yapping about just why I love Tarkir, but I do want to talk about my impression of the set and why I think it's so fun. Now, I played pre-release. I did one single pre-release, and I ended up with a Sultai deck. I had some of my like key cards was Kotis the Famekeeper, and he's a 4-drop, 1 Sultai colors, 2/1 indestructible, that when he deals damage to a player, you exile X cards from their deck and cast X spells, or spells of X CMC, where X is his power. And so I just buffed him up a bunch and hit him. And over the course of my time at pre-release, I casted 18 of my opponent's cards, and would have casted more if one opponent didn't scoop when I hit him for 10 with this Kotis. I just hit him, trigger on the stack, he reads the card, scoops immediately. My other big card was Ambling Stormshell, which is a 5/9 5-drop turtle that draws 3 cards when you attack and then gets 3 stun counters, so it's out of the game for a while. It's a slow boy. And I would give him Vigilance and attack, and so over the course of pre-release, I drew like 27 cards with him. It was awesome. It was such a fun time. I ended up going 3/3 because it is a very bomby set. You can sometimes lose to 1 card, which does kind of suck, but the set in general is just so much fun that, I mean, that's kind of how Sealed always goes, isn't it? Like, you always die to the bomb mythic randomly that you couldn't have possibly prepared for. It's a little bit different when you're drafting. You still die to the bomb mythic sometimes, but not near as badly. There's one event I wanted to talk about with my pre-release experience, and that involves a card that is 2 and a white, 0/4 with Mobilize 3 and Vigilance called Dalkovan Pack Beast. This thing is really, really good within the archetype that it's designed for, and in like round 4 or round 3, I had played a Sultai Devotee, which is a 2/1 Death Touch, and I was playing against some kid, some high school kid. I don't know how old he was, but he seemed like maybe he was like a junior or something like that in high school, maybe a sophomore. And something that I've always kind of felt this way about pre-releases, that they're more like casual tournaments. They're casual tournaments. So I have always been a little bit more loose with rules and rewinding and stuff like that, just as a participator of pre-release. I have high standards for myself, but if my opponent makes a little bit of a mistake, I usually let them rewind and fix it real quick. The reason why this matters is this poor kid attacked his Pack Beast, which is one of the best cards for his archetype, his particular deck, right into my Death Touch, and I blocked, and damage resolves, and he's like, okay. I was like, no, your Pack Beast is dead. And so he's like, wait, that has Death Touch? And he asked if we could go back, and I let him because he's a kid. I wanted him to actually be able to play his deck and not just get dunked on by not reading a Death Touch text on a 2/1. I wouldn't let somebody that was like my age who's played for 10 years rewind because they should know better, but he's just a kid. And things like this, I think, have always come up at pre-release, and it's just a personal thing for me that I think it's important to make sure everybody has a good time, and you are competing for prizes, but if somebody's clearly relatively new to the game, I'm a little bit more loose about letting them rewind and stuff like that. I ended up beating him 2-1. He did win the game where I let him rewind because of that pack beast. It's a very tough card to beat when he starts getting his engine online. But it was a fun day, and that's always a good sign when a pre-release is fun. Most of the best sets I've ever played in Magic have had really, really positive pre-releases that have really set the tone for how good the limited environment is. At this point, I have done 45 Tarkir Dragonstorm drafts. Some best of one on Arena, some best of three. I also did a whole sealed event on Arena as well. So I've been playing a lot of Tarkir Dragonstorm. It's pretty much the way I relax after work recently, after finishing my Doom 2 video, which will be coming out in a few weeks. And what I really love about the limited environment for this particular set is how fun it is to play a 2-color deck, a 3-color clan deck, or a 4-color deck. In fact, one of my favorite decks I played was a 4-color Ugin deck, and I only casted Ugin a handful of times. The rest of the deck was just fun. Like, the individual cards within Limited are very, very fun, and the draft thought process is good. Just like original cons, it's always a good idea to be an enemy paired. So like white-black, red-blue, red-white, green-blue. It's good to be in those enemy pairings because then it lets you transition between two separate possible clans, and then you also get access to good multicolors. But I also like how the fixing is done in kind of an ingenious way in this set, with the way that they've tied it to monuments and the way that the lands play out, that there's a certain point when you're drafting where you actually just want to draft lands, which is always an interesting element of a draft format. I like when that's the decision-making process that you get wrapped into because you want to be able to cast your cool cards. In fact, as I draft, I always build my deck while I'm drafting. So by the time I get to pack 3, I've already got my deck pretty much built. And then it's just what card do I want to switch around, and then I prioritize lands quite heavily in the second half of pack 2 and pack 3. And I usually get some really, really good decks in here. A lot of 7-0s, a lot of 4-3s, 5-3s, whatever the case may be. And it's just a very solid format. And really the only thing that I don't like about Limited on Magic Arena is how there is no ranked best of 3. This is so dumb to me because best of 3 is way, way better to show how skilled your deck actually is, or how skilled you were as a drafter, than best of 1 is. Sometimes best of 1 you get stuck on 2 lands, or you die to a turn 4 Elspeth Stormslaver, and there's nothing you can do about that because you don't have removal that can deal with it, and she protects herself crazy well. So sometimes that's really lame, and you really do need that second and possibly third game to not die to a god hand like that. So I do wish that best of 3 on Arena was actually something you could play ranked in, because I like playing ranked. I like playing against people of my relative skill level, and I just wish that I could more. The mechanics of Tarkir Dragonstorm that really make this such a fun set is, first, you've got mobilize, which means when a creature attacks, you mobilize based on whatever their mobilize number is, which is 1/1 creature tokens that sack at your instep for whatever that number is. So if it's mobilize 3, you're going to produce 3 tokens when you attack. Really cool token strategies where you can then sack those tokens to draw cards, or you can cash them in to anthem your board +1/+1, or whatever you want to do that you've built around that. Really cool mechanic, ingenious design. I love the design of the mechanics in this set. Renew is the Sultai mechanic, where if a card has Renew, you can exile it from your graveyard, and then you get whatever the Renew effect is, whether it's putting a lifelink counter on somebody or a +1 counter. It's almost like a power crept or improved version of Scavenge from Return to Ravnica, which is the Golgari mechanic of that set, which was already kind of a cool thing for Limited. But this is just way cooler and comes up quite often, actually. For the Temur, you've got Harmonized, which is another graveyard-based one where a card gets cast, and then when it's in the graveyard, it can be flashbacked, basically, for a higher cost. And then if you tap a creature while you're casting it, you can decrease its cost based on the power of that creature. Really, really cool mechanic. Super fun to play. Every single time you have a Harmonized card, it feels good to play, which is always a good sign for a mechanic. Endure is the Abzan mechanic, which basically means you endure 1 or 2. Sometimes, I don't know if it's higher. I don't think there's a higher one, but 1 or 2. And you either get to put a +1/+1 counter for each of the numbers on the creature itself, or make a token that is that power toughness. Really cool mechanic for going wide and for creating token synergies. And then the final mechanic is Flurry, which is something that's existed in Magic already. The idea that when you cast your second spell, you get an effect. And I really like this particular mechanic because when you cast a card with Flurry on it, it will count itself. So then you can immediately cast something after it to then get the Flurry effect. Eshki Dragonclaw, which is the Temur con in this set, she has a similar type of thing with her, where if you cast a creature and a non-creature in a turn, you get 2/+1 counters on her, and you get a draw card. And she's literally one of my favorite cards in this limited format. She is so fun to play because she'll count herself as a creature when you cast her, and then you can play something else right on top of her and draw a lot. And it's really, really fun to play her. Her, Kotis, and a lot of other of these other characters like Felithar, the cons in this set are very, very fun to play, and that is a good precedent for a set like Tarkir, where the leaders of the clans are the fun cards to play. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about how Tarkir Dragonstorm has been shaping up in Standard, and it's not like impacting the format that well, but I don't think that's Tarkir's fault. I think that's Standard's fault, and I think that's the rotation's fault. Because Standard these days, and I was kind of shocked to hear this after leaving the game for like a year and a half, Standard these days is not Standard, it's Extended. It's 3 years of sets. That's Extended. That's not Standard anymore. And I get the rationale or the logic why they did this, but I actually think it just hurt the format. I don't know about anyone who's watching this video now about whether you liked Extended or not. I always hated Extended. I thought Extended was lame because it becomes a solved format very quickly, and then it like never changes pretty much. And I hate that. I don't like that at all. I think that's the antithesis of what I liked about Standard. I liked that Standard, when a new set came in, you got new decks, you got upgrades to your old decks, and then at the end of the year, 3 of them left. Like, rotation happened. You lost half of the card pool every time, and that really was cool for making new decks and being creative. For me, I'm not able to really play anything I want to. I'm not really interested in any of the Standard decks that exist. I want to play Tarkir cards, but most of them are not viable within the Standard format, within, actually being able to win and stuff. I've got a couple brews I'm working on, but they're not working. They're not working, and I'm hoping Final Fantasy can get in there so I can actually play a card I want to play in Standard, which used to be my favorite format. These days, I pretty much only play Limited, Cube, and Commander now because Magic just has not produced a good competitive format, in my opinion, since like Neon Dynasty Standard. That was like the last one I thought was really fun, and I have never seen a competitive format within this game that has looked good since. And I hope that changes. And I know a lot of people do like this Standard, so I'm sure I'm going to get some hate for that one. But I just don't like it. I don't think it's that fun. And I don't think the decks are that interesting either. I'm going to be picking up the Tarkir Dragonstorm Commander decks for sure. I've got 2 of them right now, and I'm going to be picking up the other 3 over the next couple weeks. And if you guys want me to review those Tarkir Dragonstorm decks, you want to hear more of my thoughts on how do they play, are they fun, are they worth buying, definitely let me know in the comments below, because I definitely do a video like that. Couple weeks, I'm planning to put out a review of the 4 Fallout precons on my Wednesday slots like this. I put out 2 videos a week. My Friday ones are edited. My Wednesday ones are unscripted. And that's just because there's so many things I want to talk about that 52 videos a year is not enough. It's not enough video space for me to actually do stuff. And since I have a full-time job, I can't do 2 edited videos a week. I can only do 1. That's all I have time for. But I would love to do that in this style. I'm going to be going to taking a trip to see a friend at the end of this month, and we are going to be playing all kinds of cons of Tarkir. I have this cons cube that I have revised with Tarkir Dragonstorm, and we're going to be drafting a lot of that. We're going to be playing Tarkir Dragonstorm Commander alongside Fallout Commander, and it's going to be a lot of fun because I keep those as precons because I think modern precon design is a lot of fun. They have really upped the sauce on the more modern precon design. Guys, I hope you liked this video. This is kind of just me, a thought dump of my feelings regarding Tarkir Dragonstorm and why I think it's the most fun Magic set in a long time. There's so many fun things I've had done. Just yesterday, I casted 6 cards off of Kotis after giving him flying and a bunch of +1/+1 counters, and I stole 3 fight spells from my opponent and killed their entire board. It was hilarious. I had such a good time. I had a good time ulting Ugin the other day and casting 2 colorless spells off of him, exiling 2 separate things, and that was a lot of fun. It's a fun set. That's all I can say. I love building flurry decks. I literally love playing any of the clans, any of the 2-color combos. I have such a good time playing this. I'm only in Platinum right now because I don't play best of 1 all the time. I play best of 3 a lot, and you don't get rank in best of 3. So I definitely will be playing more limited rank to try and get that up. I was back in Neon Dynasty, I was mythic rank in both standard and limited side by side because I drafted a lot of Neon Dynasty. And I would love to do that again. I'm not interested in standard, but I'd love to at least get my limited rank up to mythic, all the way top mythic or whatever it was. I don't even remember. It's been so long. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And if you like this video, you should probably stick around because I don't make Magic content exclusively, but I do plan to cover a few things down the line. I have a big video planned for Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering because it plays into the themes of the video game theming of my channel. And I will periodically cover things on Magic Arena I think are really cool, but it's not a Magic channel. This is a video game channel. If you like video games, if you're looking forward to Doom Dark Ages, for instance, I'm going to be dropping a review on that sometime this month. And I'm really hyped for that one. So if you like video games and you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe and tune in for my other and future work. I'm going to be putting out a dossier, so to say, on my Cons Cube design in a couple weeks. So if you are interested in seeing a Cons Cube, make sure you stick around. I will definitely be putting that out sometime soon. So thank you guys for watching. If you have a moment, check out one of the other videos on the screen, and if not, that's okay. Regardless of what you whatever you choose to do, thank you for keeping it real with Rayl Deal Games. And have an awesome day, my friend.